Hello folks, it's me, DeMontropolis, lead developer of the Four Hounds Team, and I welcome you to our first devlog. Here we'll showcase some progress we've made since the release of our latest demo. We've been splitting our time between adjustments and fixes for old content, and making brand new content. Currently we have no idea when the next demo will be released, but we'll keep you updated on this in the near future. We'll also release a new devlog every so often, as soon as we have a sufficient amount of stuff to showcase, so future devlogs are likely to be shorter than this one. We may reveal some ideas we have and ask for opinions, as well as showcase in-development concepts. Do note, however, whatever doesn't have gameplay footage, do not expect it to be out by the next demo. We'll now showcase the general changes we made. You can now revisit the intro stage, and thus subsequently future Fortress stages once beat, by hitting the weapon switch buttons on your character's mugshot. A big target enemy is now on weapon test screens, to showcase damage values of stronger weapons more easily. An optional modifier is added, to add at least one additional checkpoint per stage. An optional modifier is added to reduce non-instant kill damage values. In most cases, it's halved. Damage values cannot go below 1, and the highest damaged sources cannot be reduced below 5. If autosaving is enabled, important item purchases will now activate autosaving. If infinite lives are enabled, checkpoints will now fully refill the player's HP. When mapping your controls, it now asks you to map your jump button first, then your shoot button. Protoman's final charge shot is modified. If it is not at max charge but still enough to guard break, it will bounce slightly backwards if it hits a shielded enemy before moving forward. The mugshot order on the stage select has been modified. Stage rankings have been reworked. You start off with 5,600 points, and each point of damage takes off 100 points which cannot be regained. It grants a perfect score bonus if a stage is beaten without taking damage. A max score column is also displayed now, revealing how much points you'd need to see the next grade. An optional modifier has been added. If enabled, it allows spawning enemies to have drops, where normally this isn't the case. Plasma Cannon has been reworked. Now it consumes one level of charge instead of the whole bar, unless you fire off the final charge. In that case, it will drain the whole bar. For example, you can now fire the static bombs, and the charge level will be reduced to the static arrows. Entering a completed stage changes its palette. This alternates, so you can choose to replay a stage with its primary or secondary palette. Now we move on to stage-specific changes. Alarm Shardier Dragons now have a slight delay before triggering. It will no longer seem like you've killed the enemy and the dragon flies anyway. Lava Pillars also have a slight delay when shooting upwards, preventing them from being spammed. This mid-boss's final attack now removes all projectiles on screen except for the pink tackle fire. It also fires straight down to prevent accidental hits. Meanwhile, this one has a modified pattern. Its fireball attack is shorter while also having a completely new attack with its horn. Fotelis have received a lot of changes. Their sprites are different and their spawners are better marked. They are larger while their blades are shorter. This should make it easier to hit their center without accidentally reflecting projectiles back. They also have a new sound effect when they charge at the player. Red Fotelis have been shelved to be used later in another stage, while the purple ones have replaced their positions in Meteor Man stage. Storm stars rotate faster around their targets. This should make it more common for them to deflect the player's projectiles. The screen before the Octo Meteor mid-boss has been turned into an optional checkpoint. The stage now has special tiling to telegraph the spawn locations of enemies who suddenly appear via Yoku teleportation. Many enemies have received stat nerfs. One of the most notable ones is Gordo Kajino, who now has 10 HP instead of 14. Other enemies have received adjustments. Braits now have consistent angles, so it will bounce back the same regardless of where your shot guard broke it. The two types of Apex generators have now been split off into their own paths. The right alternate path has the permanent firing variant. The left path has the standard gold ones. Now we will discuss what we plan to add, plus add some clarifications here which we couldn't have recorded footage for. Like we said, we're not sure if we can prepare these changes yet for the next demo, but they are likely to be in the final product. The Kumo Cannon intro boss is planned to be reworked. He will keep the fist attack and his jumping ability. The spinning orb will be combined with the ground goo and the web attack into one. It will prevent the boss from sitting in place often as it cycles through attacks. The spinning orb will collide on terrain. Two small Kumolings will spawn, heading into opposite directions, and circle around the room. The goop there will immobilize the player should they touch it. Should the Kumolings collide, they will morph together into a rookie Kumo. We're hoping to do this in a smaller room, and rework Kumo's back laser attack as well. Smirkman will have his attacks reworked, in the sense that he will use his attacks at different points in the room, rather than exclusively being proximity and timing based. He will also do more than simply walk back and forth as he's using the attack. Scorched Woman has an issue where she's protected from damage too often, so we're modifying some things about her. Her shield will be destructible while still firing tackle fires. She will have a variation of the Fire Pillar attack, where she will descend towards the ground, and a change in the position of where she will spawn her Drake's Flare. Bosses and mid-bosses will have reworked logic when it comes to choosing their attacks. For example, say that a boss has 4 attacks, it will have an equal chance to choose any. It picks one, and now its chance to happen again will become 0, while the others have a 33.3% chance of happening. One of these 3 unseen attacks will be reused. Now the remaining 2 attacks will gain the percentage of the last used attack, as well as the previous used attack gets an equal share. Some of these attacks will have an exception, like Static Man's Fusion Wave, which always happens with his health threshold, but afterwards the standard logic is taken, with the ultimate attack now starting at 0% chance of happening it again in a row. This is done so bosses have much greater odds of showing off more attacks, as well as preventing repetitive patterns. Quite a bit of sprites have been polished up, and many more are planned to be improved. The player sprites are also planned to be patched up sometime in the future, for all characters. That's all of the important details we got in this devlog. We will now be answering questions in our Q&A. So, which fan game gave you the most motivation to make a game of your own? Each of us on the team have a different answer to this based on our past experiences. In my case, fan games are not a direct motivation for me to develop Four Hounds, or were even a motivation from the beginning of the fan game's development, but they do serve as inspiration every now and then. For example, my decision for us to develop the game on Godot was inspired by the success of Mega Man Rock and Roll within the community, even though I've never actually played this fan game. Our second question is from Ankeles. I played the last demo and everything was fine at the Scorchwoman level, but I tried to play the other levels and everything was super laggy, probably because of the level's new look. I played these levels in the older versions and it worked just fine. You guys will add a graphics option for weak PCs? I do apologize on the team's behalf for your optimization issues. Part of the problem is actually related to level design, in regards to cleaning up all the extra fat that is outside the levels and not normally seen by the camera during gameplay. Basically, the more gook there is, the more it will lag for weak PCs. However, we will work on trimming some of this by the next demo release. The other bits of optimization shouldn't be an issue by the time the final game comes around. Our third question is from 8-Bit is Cool. Will there be any resemblance to the X series or another Mega Man series, via sprites, gameplay mechanics, music, etc.? No, this is a classic Mega Man game. Any reference we make to other series that aren't classic Mega Man is purely coincidental. Our fourth question is from Build It Up, Break It Down. What's the design process behind each stage? How did every stage come to be what they are today? What gets made first? Etc. This is a complex answer that can be looked at from different angles. I will explain my own thought process and read out design processes a few other developers wrote out. I will also explain how we decide on what ideas make or don't make. For me, DeMontropolis, it always ties back to the Robot Masters and how we can maximize the potential of the concepts they bring to the table. Every Robot Master stage has their own unique set of enemies and gimmicks which are not shared in any of the other Robot Master stages. This way, all the enemies and gimmicks are given the opportunity to shine together in their stages, and the average lengths are longer to accommodate for this. I also established some rules at the beginning for all level designers, like most stages having 2 to 3 chunks, and every chunk having a 1-up, leaving most stages with 3 1-ups to collect on average. But regardless of who's actually designing a stage, everyone pitches in on the level design itself to make sure we are all happy with the placements and challenges. Rapphire says, in terms of the art and visuals, usually the team and concept of the Robot Master gets solidified before we start developing the gimmicks and the enemies for the stage. Our goal for the stages is to try and make something that feels fresh by combining themes and ideas in ways not often done before. The team often have extensive discussions on how each element should be planned out to ensure they are thematically appropriate for the stage. Generally, we build the levels around the Robot Masters so the theming can truly stand strong in the level design itself. While our goal is to make the levels fit the Robot Masters, we also do our best to try out different combinations of themes that aren't often used but go very well together to give the stages a much stronger identity than if we were to settle for something a little more basic. What Aze had to say is this: what we add, we need to make sure has a unique purpose to stand out from others. Our first competitor is ourselves, so we need to make sure that no two assets step on each other's toes. Our next competitors are the official games. Now, adding something that's identical to those every once in a while is okay, but the more we take from them, the more we have to fight for them for a reason people choose to play our games over the originals. Other games like spiritual successors or other platformers are something we can be a bit more lax about, but we shouldn't do something one-to-one like they did. Enemies are always made first in our design processes. They're the simplest to code, mostly, and the very first thing the player should see in a stage. Which ones are chosen depends on what the coder picks and when the level designer starts work on the stage. In the earliest phase, we usually iron out many bugs, quirks, and tweaks, adjusting the enemies to work better. Sometimes this yields very unexpected consequences, but sometimes these are consequences which we very well like and keep. The methodology is as follows: make teaching elements fun, don't make them too hand-holdy, then have all the fun once you taught everything. throw in 1 or 2 new things in each third of the stage to keep it interesting. Fun fact, Wingman stage development has been shelved because we frankly just had more fun with the space stage ideas considering how unique they were, which caused the airship stage to be looked at again and some of its aspects remade from the ground up, including the level design. I'm not sure how the others came to be, as I wasn't around then, but I suppose another question for another Q&A. Will the game be ready by next year? Also, will there be a difficulty setting because the levels are super long? For the first question, we cannot guarantee when the final release will be ready, but at minimum, the final game won't be coming out anytime this year or even next year. For the second question, we've mentioned a few of these in the video, which you will have access to in the next demo alongside Infinite Lives. You can turn each of these features on or off in any combination you desire to suit your gameplay experience. There will be presets, but there won't be a traditional difficulty system. What's going to be next after Four Hounds is completed? We're not sure yet. Do you have any plans on adding a boss rush mode or something similar? We can definitely add a boss rush mode sometime in the future once all of the bosses are actually added in. One you can play after beating the game, picking individual bosses, fighting them in a gauntlet, or going at it in an endless mode fashion. That's going to do it for our Q&A, and I hope you all got to enjoy what we had to share. Consider subscribing so you can stay up to date on more Four Hounds videos in the future. And I also suggest checking out the Mega Man Four Hounds official Discord server, link in the description. This is the easiest way to keep yourself notified for future updates and Q&As, and you get to freely chat with others who love Mega Man Four Hounds. And with that said, I'll be signing off. Take care, folks.